Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Spiritual Transformer. So, those of us in the spiritual community, we've always had a sneaking suspicion that the world has always been in the control of a group of dark people or a certain dark force. Like, it could be the Illuminati or some other secret society. Like, we just kind of always knew. And I know that doesn't sound very scientific. I get that, but there's always seems to be this undercurrent. And for myself, I don't even really need to go into conspiracy theories. I've read plenty of books back in, I don't know, university and beyond. Read plenty of books where they detail a lot of bad stuff, dark stuff that happens in this world, pretty much right out in the open. Published, known. It's just people have a tendency not to look. But today I kind of want to talk about, the feeling that the world is being controlled by dark forces. And, I think the Epstein files kind of prove to a point that such forces do actually exist. Sad to say. And I think even just living a normal life, you can see that happening. I mean, for instance, one of the things that drag humanity down by a lot is probably the concepts of war. I mean, humanity has been fighting each other for thousands and thousands of years. Conquest, burnings, killings, murder, all in the name of, I don't know, country, religion, whatever. But the funny thing is how prominent it is in the history of humanity. By that I mean, sure, there may have been wars in the past, like hundreds of thousands of years ago. But why can't we just forget about them? Why can't we just, sort of like what I just spoke about? Sure, there's a lot of bad things that happen in the world, but they're all written in books, and if you don't read them, you probably won't know. So, unless you're a historian, why do you even know about war? And the thing that catches my attention is, well, when I look back into my own life, I realize how much war is taught, like even in school. Like, for instance, I grew up in school. I was in the school system during the 80s and 90s, right? And even as young as when I was in, like, I don't know, maybe grade 7 or 8, so middle school, I was already being taught about war, specifically World Wars 1 and 2. Now, I don't remember all that much that I was being taught, thank God, but shockingly enough, like, I can't tell you what the Pythagorean theorem is. I can barely pronounce it. But, for World War II, I can tell it's like between the Allies, that's like the States and Russia, Canada, England, France. They're all fighting against Germany and Japan. I think there's one more, but it's World War II lore. It's everybody versus the Nazis, pretty much. And I still remember all this stuff, and I think I remember the World War II ending in 1945. So there's still a lot of stuff that gets stuck in my head about the world wars, even though I've been taught that like decades and decades and decades ago. Okay, Call of Duty might have something to do with it, but or maybe Wolfenstein, right? But yeah, it's always about the Nazis. It's but they taught this stuff while I was in elementary or middle school, for Pete's sake. I mean, why? And then in high school, yes, there's mandatory like history lessons, and of course you learn all about the wars, like pretty much all over again. And yeah, and it shocks me. Like, why do I retain so much memory of war and not so much memory of any other type of history? I mean, why can't we start with scientific inventions? I can't tell you when the telephone was invented. You know what I mean? But yeah, but when it comes to World War One and World War Two, why the heck do we even have to learn about that? I mean, it's by the time I was in school, like in school, it was in the 80s. So it's like 40 years has passed since World War II. Why are we learning about it? Why aren't we learning about more recent wars? Like, this is the 80s, right? We could be learning about the Vietnam War, which is pretty recent. We could also be learning about the war in Afghanistan, which I believe happened in the 80s. So why aren't we learning about those more recent wars? Why do we always gotta learn about, World War One and World War Two? It's probably because, those we were the victors, like the West, we were the winners. And of course we learned about nuclear bombs in Japan as well, right? So we learned about all these nasty stuff. And we were just taught about this in school, like from a very young age. To me, looking back, it strikes me as kind of crazy. Why are we learning about war? Why are we learning about violence? And why are we learning about this old war when we could be learning about the Vietnam War or the Afghanistan War? I mean, those are more prominent at that time. And you know what? The Vietnam War was shite. We should be learning about the negative effects of war, of which the Vietnam War is probably the perfect example. And yet we don't. And to this day, we still have war after war after war. It's almost like humanity just never learns. And I think the reason why humanity never learns is because it never leaves our history. And I think the reason why war never really leaves our history is because we keep getting taught in school and such. And I think the reason why it keeps getting taught in school and such is because there's a certain control group out there that wants war to be taught in schools and stuff, so that war is always fresh in our minds, so that when we start a new war, it's like not a surprise. It's almost like, oh, I guess we're due for another war because we haven't had a war for X amount of years. To me, it's a little ridiculous. It's like we made a progress on a lot of stuff. Humanity has made progress on a lot of stuff, but it seems that war just keeps coming back and back and back over and over again in a cycle for as long as human history has been fighting. And it's just so freaking odd. I mean, these days, there are actually anti-war, I guess, ideologies. So why hasn't it taken hold? Like, if today there's a group of people who want peace, well, it can't be new because we've been having war for ages. So why can't people like thousands of years ago figure, oh, war is bad, and then just perpetuate that? Why do we keep going around circles with war after war after war? Has humanity not learned? I mean, they must have learned. Not everybody is some warmonger. There's got to be people out there who say, yeah, no more wars. We stop this crap. Right? But no, that doesn't take hold. And it's almost like every time there's a war, humanity just goes around and learns it like fresh. Oh, another war. We got to fight for peace. But there's been so many wars and there's been so many fighting for peace. It just doesn't seem to like take hold. And I think I won't say it's proof, but it's almost like pointing a finger at, like, oh yeah, there's definitely some kind of dark controlling force that just keeps war in perpetual motion. Otherwise, I think humanity would have risen above a long time ago. I mean, how many times do people have to be killed for people to realize, hey, yeah, we got to stop it? War is crazy. Unless, of course, there's a group of people, powerful, influential people, who wants to keep war bubbling up year after year, time after time, right? And you know what? In contrast, we made a lot of, I guess, headway in other stuff like science and technology, right? I mean, we saw so much change and headway just in the past 150 years alone. It's amazing how fast things now, especially now we've got AI and everything. So why is it that we are moving along so well in certain things, but when it comes to war, it seems like we're stuck? And you know what? If I really want to put on my conspiracy hat, technology is like not immune to control either. I mean, you just look at the flock cameras, right? Surveillance state. You look at who's controlling AI and the information that goes in there. You look at the information economy, Facebook, YouTube, whatever, It's all about grabbing people's personal information. And I think if this video was sponsored, I'd probably have incognito or something, because that's the kind of world we live in all of a sudden right now. So even technology seems to be getting dragged back into that old feeling of control. Now people are using technology to control the rest of us. That's what it seems like anyway, from my perspective. Yeah, technology has been freeing for a while, and all of a sudden now it's like, yeah, we got all this data now. Humanity's generating all this data, which is like perfect for like controlling and feeding AI and whatever. I mean, you gotta pay incognito just to kind of get yourself out of that system, which I think is kind of insane. But hey, at least it's some kind of progress, technology, right? And oh man, the other kinds of progress, slavery. I mean, we don't have slaves anymore. I mean, for my Latin class in high school, yeah, I used to be able to speak a bit of Latin. I can't anymore, but see, that's the thing. I remember World War One, World War Two, but I don't remember a word of Latin. It's crazy. So yeah, for my Latin classes, I knew that the Romans kept slaves, right? So slaves has been going on, perpetuating until recently. Okay, I'm not American, I'm Canadian, so I actually don't remember when the Civil War took place. I don't know, a couple hundred years ago, maybe 150 years ago. I have no idea. But, thanks to the Civil War, the American Civil War, there was now no slavery. Slavery is against the law. So we make huge progress on that in a very short amount of time. So why aren't we making any progress on the idea of war? Slavery is now considered absolutely bad, absolutely terrible. No more, no more, no more. Of course, if you really want to look at the cynical side of it, we're all slaves to the economy, right? I mean, we're all wage slaves. Well, not all of us, but a lot of us are wage slaves. I think that might include myself. And yeah, so even though we made progress on slavery, it's kind of like we're getting pulled back into the whole economic slavery. And there are still other, you know what? That's another good point. So there's enough light shining into the idea of slavery that real slavery, the ball and chain kind, is kind of being driven back into shadows. So much in the shadows that, yeah, there are countries out there in the world who I am absolutely certain still has some form of slavery, but they are, or maybe even in the prison system here in the West, but they've been kind of kept in the shadows. Yeah, they exist, but hush hush. But war is not hush hush. War is out there. I mean, just look at what's going on with America, Israel, and Iran. I mean, right now, war is in your face. But slavery is kind of like, shh, don't talk about it. So is that progress? I think so. I mean, you go from complete open slavery to driving slavery in the shadows. They still exist though, but I think that's progress. But again, we're not making any progress on war. What else? Oh, we made progress on women's rights, women's liberation. It wasn't too long ago that women aren't even allowed to vote, and now, well, women are as good as men in just about every field, and that's amazing. You know what's funny? It's thanks to World War II that women started gaining a foothold in, I guess, the labor market. Right back then, they used to stay at home and tend to the kids, but thanks to World War II and all the men off fighting war, women started going to factories to produce things because the men are elsewhere. And now all of a sudden, women and men are both doing work. They're in the economy. They're making dough, but at the same time, it kind of liberates the women because now women aren't dependent on men. So we're making progress on that, a bit of equality, progress on equality, especially when it comes to women's rights. So we make progress on that. If I want to be cynical again, I think the whole feminism idea might be a little bit of double-edged sword. Because one thing I noticed, maybe I'll make an entire video of this. So this is a bit of a spoiler, but one thing I noticed is that for a long time we've been living under a patriarchy, right? And we probably still are. And the patriarchy, by definition, is men, right? So isn't it kind of funny that women's liberation basically turns women into men? Okay, that came out completely wrong, but doesn't it mean that like the role of women just turned into like the role of men? I mean, they take jobs, right? Men used to take jobs. They earn the money. Men used to earn the money, and now we're all fighting on the same corporate ladder for the same promotions. Like, and then like at home, the kids are like they're latchkey kids, right? Just they go home and both their parents are away at work. Um, I was kind of like that myself, growing up in the '90s, and yeah. So isn't it just like all of a sudden you've got two male roles in a household, and it's almost like, well, where's the feminine side of it? Like the feminine energy is like just not there. Now, I know that there's like, I know there's a push to get men to do more housework, to do cooking, and that's great, except it's not quite the same as the feminine role. It's just dividing duties. I don't think there's real feminine energy just because you make a man do the cooking. It's kind of weird. This part just kind of came just ad lib here, so make of it what you will. Okay. I think I might have pissed off people with some of this stuff because I know gender identity is a very controversial topic. So I think I will stop right here, right now. But the idea of war doesn't seem like it's changed much, even though scientifically, technologically, when it comes to civil rights, when it comes to feminism, things have changed for the better. But war just seems to keep moving on, keep trucking along, and I think that's really, really suspicious. Anyway, that's it for now. I do have another video on war that I'm going to try to put up here somewhere. So you're interested, check it out. And you've been watching The Spiritual Transformer. If you like this kind of stuff, make sure to hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe. And I will see you next time. Peace.